How's it going, and welcome back to another video. I've done several gimbal reviews so far, and this one takes the cake. This is the best gimbal I've ever reviewed. That's the Zhiyun Crane 2, and it's got this gigantic box. Like, it's huge. So let's crack this thing open and see what's inside of it. So inside the white box here, aside from the black carrying case, there was anti-slip grip tape. So I guess this is for wrapping up the handles of this thing so it feels like a tennis racket. Might make it a little easier to grip for long periods of time. I'm not really into that. I don't want to get adhesive all over the handle. It comes with a strap for the carrying case, which this may be extremely helpful because this thing weighs a freaking ton. Okay, this feels really well made. Like metal clips, metal everything. This is pretty solid. And then it comes with the instruction manual. You're gonna wanna hang on to this, you're gonna wanna flip through this. There's good information in here. Then that brings us to the case itself. It is incredibly well made. You definitely feel like you're opening quality when you're opening up this case here. It feels remarkable, it looks absolutely fantastic, and it just exudes quality, which it should, because this gimbal cost $750. Yes, you heard that right, $750 for stabilized video shots, which may not seem like a crazy price if you're a professional, and this would actually end up being a pretty cheap piece of kit. But for a hobbyist or an amateur or somebody who's just starting, this is going to be quite a chunk of change. So inside the case, there's little cutouts for everything that you need. So first thing you get is this little tripod here. This is so you can set up the gimbal and balance it. I've said this for a long time. This is an indispensable feature on a gimbal, being able to set it upright and just set it down. I mentioned that about the DJI Osmo at one point, and everybody's like, who wants to set a gimbal upright anyways? Well, who wants to lay it down? It doesn't work. Fantastic. Remarkable quality again, feels super solid, very well made, gets a huge thumbs up. Then you get the batteries, all the 3 batteries as well as a battery charger. It comes with 3 batteries, which is going to get you either charging or running, but not both. It comes with a USB port on both sides, so you can charge twice as fast from 2 USB ports plugged into 2 separate outlets. It comes with like a robust little carrying case for your stinking cables. That's all that's in here are cables. And it comes with lots of different cables. It comes with a single charging cable, so you're not going to be able to double up unless you use an additional charging cable. And then it comes with lots of control cables. It comes with 2 for Canon. One's a micro USB and one is a mini USB. That way you can go back to their more legacy kind of cameras. It comes with a little headphone jack looking cable for Panasonic, and it comes with a micro USB to micro USB for Sony. So you can control all those cameras to a certain degree with the controls on the handle of this gimbal. And you can also charge these cameras with those exact same cables. So now on to the gimbal itself. This is far and beyond the best build quality of any gimbal I've reviewed. It is absolutely huge, it's extremely robust, and it is heavy. Let's go ahead and talk about the weight. This thing weighs 3 pounds, empty. Then you can put up to 7 pounds of camera gear on it. So if you want to have an idea of what it's like controlling this thing, get a 10-pound weight and go running around with it held out at arm's length just to get an idea of how heavy this thing gets, because it gets heavy in a hurry. I took this out and did some shooting with it, and it did not take long before everything in my arm was throbbing. The handle screws off of it and exposes quite snazzy looking red threads, as well as the places for all 3 batteries. It's a very robust feeling aluminum handle. I think everything on this gimbal is aluminum except for a couple little wire chases, and it just, again, you get your money's worth with this thing. As far as the controls go, there is a follow focus wheel on the left side, which only works with Canon cameras. Panasonic and Sony, it won't work for them, and Nikon isn't supported on this gimbal at all. Around on the back, you have got a joystick, which will allow you to turn the gimbal in different directions. You've got a mode button, which switches between the 3 different modes it has. It has a pan follow mode, which follows your pan, stays locked on the tilt axis. You've got a lock mode, which stays locked on all axes, and then you've got a follow mode, which follows you on all axes as well. There is a power/record button. Press and hold it will turn it on and off. Press it once and it will start recording if your camera's hooked up to it. This does work with Sony. I tried it out on both the A7R II and the A6500. Worked like a dream. It's got a scroll wheel on the back as well. If you click down on it, it takes you to the menu. If clicking up on it, takes you to the real-time preview. I'm not exactly sure what the real-time preview is, but it's there. You can also click left and right on the wheel, which when you're within the menu, takes you deeper into menus or backs you out of menus. And then there is a center button for selecting whatever you're on. Around on the right side, you have got a 8-volt power out port, which they advertise as charging the D5 cameras. You can stick a faux battery up inside the D5, plug it in here, and get additional power. And then it's got a micro USB port here as well, which is not for power input or output, it's for the firmware update only. On the back, it's got an OLED screen for seeing your modes that you're in, as well as your menu options and other camera info for Canon cameras. Again, only. It does not work with Sony cameras. So without further ado, let's load up the A6500 on it and see how it works. It's got a quick release plate for attaching cameras to the gimbal itself, and it is long enough to give you lots of adjustability quickly and easily on the gimbal. The plate is made 100% out of aluminum again, with the rubber grips being the only thing that's not aluminum. It's got a lens support on one end to help support longer, heavier lenses. You do have to be careful about where you place the quick release plate on the camera itself, because sometimes it can interfere with the lens if the lens comes down below the body of the camera. So then you can lock it right into the gimbal. You can slide it back and forth to get it balanced just right. One gripe that I do have, if the little tightening knob is in the forward position, it will interfere with the camera and you're going to have to move your camera forward again to get it past that point. So be sure to have that tipped backwards whenever you go to balance your camera. Balancing is the same as any gimbal. You just want to go axis by axis until you have got everything balanced like it needs to be. Press the power button to power it up and you're ready to go. It starts off in pan follow mode, which pans with you but stays locked on the tilt axis. Then you can hit the mode button once to go into locking mode, which locks all axes, and it stays pointing in the exact direction as it was when it entered locked mode. Then you've got follow mode, which will follow both the turning as well as the tilting. When it's in locking mode, you can just grab it and turn it any direction and it will immediately lock to that new position that you may have tilted it to, which is nice. You can also rotate it left and right and it will also lock immediately to wherever you point the camera. So that's a super neat feature, ultra useful, and keeps you from having to fiddle with the joystick. Joysticks are nice to have as a feature, but they can be a little difficult to get the hang of. Speaking of joysticks, the joystick here works in locking mode in all directions, both in the tilt and the pan. In pan follow mode, it only works on the tilt because it's relying on your hand movement for the pan movement. In follow mode, the joystick really switches it up because while it can follow you in all directions, the joystick does nothing vertically, but when you go sideways with it, it rolls the whole thing. It only goes to about 45 degrees, maybe a little less than that, and you may just want to avoid that. I don't know if you can turn that off or not, because it may throw a kink in your footage if you don't know that it does that. Pressing and holding the mode button will disable the motors and essentially turn the gimbal off. If you want to turn the motors back on, press and hold the mode button again, and it will power back up. This is nice if you don't want to power down the gimbal for some reason, if you want to leave your camera charging off of it, and but you're not using it immediately. It may conserve some battery life, but other than that, I'm not exactly sure what you might use that for. I shot several different shots while testing this gimbal out. I shot some with the 58mm, the 10-18, as well as the 16mm. These are a few of the shots I got. It's not beautiful. I'm not a professional gimbal operator, and I am not a professional videographer either. So it is what it is.
is a house built out of stone, wooden floors, walls, and window sills, tables and chairs worn by all of the times. This is a place where I don't feel alone.
So on this channel, I'm very much about apples to apples comparisons. So let's see how this compares to just hand holding the camera. Okay, so you guys are probably pretty familiar with what you're seeing right now. I have used this exact same lens and gimbal combo in both the Sigma 16mm f1.4 review, as well as that last Comica microphone that I did a review of. This combo makes for incredibly good looking video, especially when doing a selfie like this. However, it may be a little challenging to sustain because this gimbal is quite heavy. Like, I've been walking and recording for about a minute and a half now, and my arm is already like dying. But I guess if you guys want something that looks this good and this buttery smooth, then that's the price you're gonna have to pay. So let's go out here and do a few side-by-side kind of tests with walking and running and stabilized and unstabilized kind of footage. So let's get started.
There is a house built out of stone, wooden floors, walls, and window sills, tables and chairs worn by all.
So as you can see, it does a pretty remarkable job with stabilizing the footage. You may notice that there's that up and down movement. You can complain about that all you want, but it's not going to go away until you get a 4-axis system. That's why they have the big arms on the Steadicams. It's because you can't get rid of it with a 3-axis solution. So if you're in the market for a 3-axis gimbal, know that it's not the gimbal's fault that there's that up and down movement. It is the operator error. You need to learn how to walk with one of these if you're going to get the most out of it. I'm not the best at it, so I'm not going to teach you how to do it. There are other people on YouTube that do it much better than I can. So final thoughts on this gimbal. This is by far the best gimbal I've ever used. Probably one of the best consumer level gimbals that you can buy. I have no doubts about that. Everything about it absolutely exudes quality. I don't have any complaints with this thing other than the weight, and the weight is part of the quality. And the battery life. Oh, battery life. As far as the battery life goes on this gimbal here, it has the runtime for up to 18 hours. Now that's probably running a minimum load, which is 500 grams. Perfectly balanced, using it very little, but that's what they advertise it as. 18 hours. That's a long time. That's a lot of shooting. That's a very sore arm. So final thoughts on this gimbal. It's got so many things in its favor. The camera support and charging and control, the build quality, the adjustability, the capacity, everything. There's just so many things good to say about this gimbal. It's hard to find things that are wrong with it. If I were to try and be nitpicky, I would like to see the follow focus and aperture control functions with more cameras. I don't know why they can only do Canon for now, but maybe support will come for other cameras in the future. The app could be better. Now, I got all kinds of crap for the last gimbal review I did that I didn't touch on the app. Basically, the only thing you can do with this on this gimbal here is the joystick. So you've got this joystick here for controlling it in pan follow mode. Right is down, left is down, right's up this time, right's down. It's kind of difficult to use, and it's very kind of slow, unresponsive, difficult to really fine tune it. I haven't figured out if you can change the rate at which the gimbal moves the motors, because I don't like it. You can't. I let go of it and it still swings for another couple seconds before it stops. I tried to go right, it went down, left, it goes down again. It's just, I just went from up to down and it just kept going up, down. Nope, we're going around. All right, so let's do the following mode. Oh. Right is roll, left is roll the other way, up is also roll, down is let's keep rolling that same direction. If you want a joystick, just use the joystick on the back. It works so much better. So the app gets a big thumbs down from me, just like it did with the Smooth Q. It doesn't work that well. It's not good. All right. Basically, if you're in the market for a gimbal and are willing to spend this money on it, do it. You won't be disappointed. It's fantastic. If you're hesitant about spending $700 on a gimbal, don't do it. There are other cheaper options out there. Go get the little brother of this one. Go get smaller versions, different brands. They're cheaper. They're very good for what they are. You don't need a gimbal that'll hold 7 pounds. This thing's a freaking monster. So hopefully that answers any questions that you guys may have had about this gimbal. If you have any more or I missed anything, leave a comment down below. I'll be happy to investigate your questions or answer them if I already know the answer. So thanks for watching. Go ahead and give me a like, hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you in the next one.